The stars looked different from Admiral Voss's command bridge. After 30 years serving the Galactic Empire, he barely noticed the view anymore. Thousands of systems, millions of planets, all part of the Empire's domain. The blue-green world on his view screen would soon be just another conquest. "Status report," Voss ordered, his voice calm and measured. "Planet designation Earth shows signs of early spacefaring civilization." "Admiral," replied his first officer. "Primitive compared to Imperial standards, but advancing quickly." Voss nodded. He had overseen 57 planetary incorporations, some peaceful, others requiring demonstrations of Imperial might. None had ultimately refused the Empire's embrace. None could. "Prepare the diplomatic vessel." Standard first contact protocols. On Earth, alarms blared through the Global Defense Council headquarters. Director Adams rushed into the command center, her gray uniform crisp despite being summoned from sleep. The massive detection array had picked up objects decelerating at the edge of the solar system, movements that defied Earth's understanding of physics. "What am I looking at?" she demanded. Colonel West pointed to the main screen. "Multiple vessels, Director. Largest is approximately 3 kilometers in length. They're slowing down. Trajectory suggests they're heading for Earth orbit." Adams's face remained impassive, but her mind raced. This was the moment humanity had both feared and prepared for since detecting faint signals from deep space decades ago. "Activate Protocol Watchman," she ordered. "I want all defense platforms on standby. No aggressive posture, but I want us ready." Around the world, hidden facilities hummed to life. Orbital platforms disguised as communications satellites shifted imperceptibly. In underground bunkers, soldiers trained for this exact scenario checked their equipment one final time. The Imperial diplomatic vessel broke away from the fleet, a sleek silver craft designed to impress primitive species with its elegant lines and quiet power. Ambassador Trell reviewed the standard incorporation speech on his tablet. After 200 years of diplomatic service, he could recite it from memory, but protocol demanded precision. "Remember," he instructed his staff, "these humans likely have never encountered spacefaring civilizations before. They will be awed, possibly frightened. Our job is to make Imperial rule seem inevitable and beneficial." The staff nodded. They had done this dozens of times before. "They're broadcasting something," the communications officer announced. They're speaking English." Adams raised an eyebrow. "Let's hear it." A smooth, almost artificial voice filled the room. "People of Earth, we bring greetings from the Galactic Empire, the governing body of civilized space. We come in peace to welcome your world into our prosperous community of planets." The message continued, explaining the honor being bestowed upon Earth, the protection the Empire would provide, and the minimal adjustments required of human civilization. Adams exchanged glances with General Rivera, the military commander who had joined her at the console. His expression mirrored her thoughts exactly. "Send our prepared response," she instructed. "Invite their representatives to the neutral meeting facility. Let's see these empire builders face to face." Ambassador Trell was surprised by the calm, organized response from Earth. Usually, first contact resulted in chaos, fear, or naive excitement. The humans instead proposed a diplomatic meeting with clear terms and boundaries. "Interesting. Admiral," Trell communicated back to the fleet, "the natives appear more sophisticated than initial scans suggested. Request permission to proceed with diplomatic contact." "Granted," came Voss's reply. "Remember, Ambassador, the outcome is predetermined. Earth will join the Empire, whether through your words or my ships." In her private office, Director Adams reviewed the classified files that only 12 people on Earth had access to. The crashed scout ship discovered 60 years ago. The reverse-engineered technology. The defense systems built in secret. "Are we ready?" she asked the empty room. Her computer chimed with an incoming message from the research division. "Project Guardian at 100% operational capacity. Shield systems online. waiting for your command. Adams closed her eyes briefly. Humanity had hoped this day would never come, but they had prepared nonetheless. "Let's welcome our visitors," she whispered, "and show them that Earth is not like the others." The meeting facility stood on a small island in the Pacific Ocean, built specifically for this moment. Glass walls revealed the ocean on all sides, a subtle reminder of Earth's most precious resource. Director Adams watched as the Imperial shuttle descended from the clouds, its silent engines putting Earth's best aircraft to shame. "Remember," she told the small group of world leaders beside her, "show respect, but not fear." The shuttle landed on the marked pad. Its doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing Ambassador Trell and 4 Imperial guards. Trell stood tall, his skin a pale blue-gray, eyes slightly larger than human standard. He wore flowing robes of deep purple, designed to impress. "Welcome to Earth," Adams said, stepping forward. "I am Director Adams, speaking on behalf of Earth's United Nations." Trell offered a practiced smile. "The Empire thanks you for this welcome. I bring greetings from Emperor Maximus Duai, ruler of 10,000 worlds." The formal introductions continued, each side measuring the other. Finally, they moved inside to the circular meeting table. "Let me be clear about the Empire's intentions," Trell began once they were seated. He activated a small device that projected a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. A vast section glowed red. "This is Imperial territory. Your world sits here." A blue dot appeared at the edge of the red section, in what we call Expansion Zone 3. The human representatives watched silently. "Earth will become an Imperial protectorate. Your industries will be upgraded with Imperial technology. Your military forces will be incorporated into the Imperial fleet. Your resources will contribute to the greater good of all Imperial worlds." President Jackson from North America leaned forward. "And in return," Trell's smile widened, "in return, you receive the protection of the mightiest force in the galaxy. Your people will gain access to medical technology that extends life by centuries. Travel between stars will become possible for your citizens." "At what cost?" asked the European Union representative. "Minimal adjustments," Trell replied smoothly. "A small resource tribute. Acceptance of Imperial governors to oversee the transition. Nothing your people will find burdensome." Adams noticed how carefully Trell avoided specific numbers or percentages. How have other worlds responded to these offers? Something flickered across Trell's face. Annoyance, perhaps. "All worlds currently enjoy the benefits of Imperial membership." "That doesn't answer my question," Adams pressed. Trell's voice hardened slightly. "All worlds currently in the Empire have accepted Imperial rule. Some required more persuasion than others." While the meeting continued, Intelligence Officer Morgan sat in a secure room beneath the facility. Using technology recovered from the crashed Imperial scout ship, she had managed to access a small portion of the Imperial shuttle's database. "Director," she whispered into her secure communicator, "you need to see this." The images flashed across her screen. Worlds stripped of resources, populations relocated to labor colonies, cultures erased and replaced with Imperial standards. The minimal adjustments Trell spoke of were nothing less than complete subjugation. Adams excused herself briefly from the meeting. In the secure room, Morgan showed her the evidence. "This is what they've done to every world they've incorporated," Morgan explained. "The Empire doesn't make allies. It makes subjects." Adams's expression remained neutral, but her fingers tightened around the edge of the desk. "How long before the main fleet arrives?" "Based on their communications, 1 month. They're giving us time to prepare for integration. What they really mean is time to surrender without a fight." Adams straightened her jacket. "Send this information to all council members. Secure channel, highest encryption." As she turned to leave, Morgan asked, "What will we do?" Adams paused at the door. "What humanity has always done when faced with tyrants. Defy them." When Adams returned to the meeting, Trell was outlining the integration timeline. You have one standard month to prepare your world for Imperial arrival, he concluded. I suggest you use this time wisely. The Empire's generosity has limits, as does its patience. Adams met his gaze steadily. We understand completely, Ambassador. Earth will have an answer for the Empire when the time comes. Threll nodded, missing the cold determination in her eyes. To him, this was merely another world accepting its inevitable fate. He had no idea what humanity was capable of when threatened. 1 month, he repeated. Then Earth joins the stars. The Global Defense Council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from every nation sat around the massive circular table, faces grim as they reviewed the evidence Officer Morgan had gathered. The Imperial integration process was nothing less than colonization, systematic resource extraction, forced labor, and cultural erasure. We have 3 weeks left before the main fleet arrives, Director Adams said, standing at the center of the room. I need a unanimous decision today. President Jackson shook his head. Their technology outclasses ours by centuries. The images we've seen of their weapons capabilities are concerning. That's what they want us to believe, General Rivera countered. But remember Project Guardian. Remember what we found in that crashed ship. The room fell silent. For 60 years, Earth's best minds had worked in secret, reverse engineering alien technology. What began as scattered pieces had become something more, a defense system unlike anything the Empire expected from a primitive world. It's time we activated Protocol Sentinel, Adams said. All in favor. One by one, hands raised. Despite their differences, humanity stood united. Admiral Voss frowned at the communication screen. Repeat that, Ambassador. Trell's face showed genuine confusion. They've called for another meeting, Admiral. They say they have their answer regarding Imperial integration. It's only been 9 days. They're supposed to take the full month to accept reality. Perhaps they're more reasonable than expected, Trell suggested. Voss wasn't convinced. In his experience, quick responses meant either eager submission or, far more rarely, foolish resistance. He hoped, for Earth's sake, it wasn't the latter. Attend their meeting. I'll have the fleet increase speed, just in case. Ambassador Trell and his entourage entered the same meeting facility, but something had changed. The human representatives seemed different, calmer, more confident. Director Adams stood as they entered. Ambassador Trell, thank you for coming on short notice. Trell nodded. The Empire is pleased by your prompt response. Have you prepared your integration schedules as requested? Adams smiled slightly. We have prepared our response. She nodded to an aide, who handed Trell a simple, transparent tablet. Trell read the single sentence displayed there. Earth declines Imperial membership and declares itself a sovereign, independent world. His large eyes blinked rapidly. I don't understand. This is not possible. It's not only possible. Adams replied, it's our final decision. Earth will not join your empire. Trell's confusion turned to something between amusement and concern. Director Adams, perhaps I've failed to make the situation clear. This isn't an invitation that can be declined. The Empire doesn't ask worlds to join. It informs them that they will. We understand perfectly, Adams said, and our answer remains no. Trell's voice hardened. Then you choose the hard path. The Imperial Armada will arrive in 2 weeks. They will not land with gifts and technology, but with weapons. Adams didn't flinch. We are aware of the consequences. You can't possibly believe you can resist, Trell said, genuine bewilderment in his voice. No world has successfully defied the Empire in 800 years. Then perhaps it's time someone did. Adams stood straighter. Return to your ship, Ambassador. Tell Admiral Voss that Earth is closed to Imperial conquest. As the Imperial shuttle lifted off, Officer Morgan joined Adams at the window. They're sending a priority signal to the Armada, Morgan reported. They're coming at full speed now. Adams nodded. Begin Phase 1 of Protocol Sentinel. I want all systems online within 48 hours. Across the planet, hidden facilities hummed with power. Deep in underground bunkers, engineers activated systems that had been waiting for decades. In orbit, satellites that appeared dormant began subtle course corrections. "What do you think our chances are?" Morgan asked quietly. Adams watched the Imperial shuttle becoming a dot in the sky. "Better than they think. Much better." She turned to face the younger officer. "The Empire expects a primitive world with primitive defenses. They don't know what we found. They don't know what we built from it." She pressed a button on her wrist communicator. "This is Director Adams. Authorization Sentinel Alpha. Commence planetary shield preparation." Beneath her feet, the Earth began to hum with power that no human had created, but that humans had perfected. Admiral Voss stood on the command bridge of the Imperial flagship, watching as Earth grew larger on the main view screen. The blue-green planet looked peaceful, vulnerable, like countless others the Empire had brought to heel. His fleet of 300 warships moved in perfect formation, a display of power meant to crush any thought of resistance. Preliminary scans complete. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "detecting primitive defense satellites and a small number of armed spacecraft. Nothing that poses any threat." Voss nodded. "As expected. Ambassador Trell, your assessment." Trell stepped forward, still puzzled by the humans' defiance. Their rejection was unanimous. "Admiral, but they must know resistance is futile. Perhaps they need a demonstration." Voss turned to his weapons officer. "Target their largest military installation. Low-yield destroyer beam. Let's show them what they're facing." "Targeting, Admiral." "Firing in 3, 2. A sudden alarm blared across the bridge. The weapons officer's hands froze above his console. "What's happening?" Voss demanded. "Energy surge detected from the planet's surface," the science officer shouted. "Massive power readings, nothing like our initial scans." Before Voss could respond, a shimmer appeared around Earth, faint at first, then solidifying into a translucent blue barrier that encompassed the entire planet. "Impossible," Trell whispered. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Reeves stood in the control center of Facility Omega, heart pounding as he watched the shield deployment readings. 60 years of preparation. Trillions in secret funding and technology reverse-engineered from the crashed alien ship, all coming together in this moment. "Shield stability at 98% and holding," reported his chief engineer. "All sectors online." Reed allowed himself a small smile. "Activate defensive grid Alpha." Around him, technicians worked at fever pitch. On screens covering the walls, hundreds of communications satellites shed their disguises, revealing weapons platforms far beyond what humanity had publicly acknowledged. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "Director Adams is on secure line 1. Reed picked up the receiver. "The shield is holding, Director. Grid Alpha coming online now." "Excellent," Adams replied. "The Imperial fleet has arrived exactly as predicted. Let's show them Earth isn't the easy target they expected." On the Imperial flagship, chaos erupted as new alarms sounded. "Admiral, those satellites, they are transforming." Voss watched in disbelief as Earth's orbital space came alive with defensive platforms. Each one glowed with energy signatures that made no sense, technology that primitive humans shouldn't possess. "Scan those weapons," he ordered. "I want to know what we're facing." The science officer worked frantically, then looked up in shock. "Admiral, the technology. It's Imperial." "What?" Voss strode to the scanner. "That's not possible." But the evidence was clear. The humans had somehow acquired and adapted Imperial technology. Not just any technology, but military systems that should have been impossible for them to understand, let alone replicate. "All ships, defensive formation," Voss commanded. "Prepare for." He never finished his order. A brilliant beam of blue-white energy shot from one of Earth's platforms, slicing through an Imperial cruiser as if it were paper. The ship split cleanly in two, secondary explosions rippling through both halves. "Return fire," Voss shouted. The Imperial fleet unleashed its weapons, only to watch as every shot dissipated harmlessly against Earth's shield. In the facility Omega control room, Reed's team cheered as the enemy cruiser was destroyed. "Target their command ships," Reed ordered. "Precision strikes only. Let's show them we could do more damage if we wanted to." More beams lanced out from Earth's defense grid, each one targeting the engines or weapons systems of Imperial ships, disabling rather than destroying them. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the Imperial fleet is pulling back, regrouping at lunar orbit." Reed nodded grimly. "They're surprised now. But they'll be back with a new strategy. Alert all defense stations to remain at full readiness." He looked at the main screen, where the Imperial ships were retreating to a safe distance. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire had met a force it couldn't immediately overwhelm. "Send word to Director Adams," Reed said. "Phase 1 complete. Earth stands unbreached." Outside, beneath the protective glow of the planetary shield, millions of humans looked up at the night sky, seeing strange flashes of light, but unaware of just how close they had come to conquest, or how effectively their hidden defenders had just changed the course of galactic history. Captain Garcia moved through the bridge of the EDS Defiant, Earth's first true battleship. The vessel hummed with power from engines that hadn't existed in human hands until 3 weeks ago. Around her, crew members checked systems with quiet efficiency, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and tension. "Status report," Garcia ordered, taking her command chair. "All systems green, Captain," her first officer replied. "Strike teams report ready." "The fleet is in position behind the moon's shadow." Garcia nodded, studying the tactical display. The Imperial fleet had withdrawn to regroup after their first failed assault, just as Earth's military leaders had predicted. Admiral Voss would be preparing a more coordinated attack, unaware that humanity had no intention of simply waiting behind their shield. "Connect me to command," she said. Director Adams appeared on screen. "Captain Garcia, are you prepared to execute Phase 2? "Yes, Director. My crew is ready. The Imperials won't expect us to have jump capability." Adams's expression remained grave. "Remember your objectives. Disable their command and control systems, avoid unnecessary casualties, and return safely. This isn't about destroying their fleet. It's about showing them we can strike back." "Understood." Garcia turned to her navigation officer. "Prepare jump coordinates. All hands to battle stations." On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Voss reviewed the damage reports with growing frustration. 7 ships disabled, 1 destroyed completely, all without inflicting a single significant hit on the planet's defenses. "How?" he demanded of his science team. "How did they acquire this technology?" The chief science officer shook his head. "Unknown, Admiral. But the energy signatures are unmistakable. They're using modified Imperial technology, some of it more advanced than our standard fleet equipment." Voss slammed his fist on the table. "Impossible. These humans barely left their own moon." Ambassador Trell, who had remained silent since their retreat, finally spoke. "Perhaps we underestimated them. The Empire's records of Earth are decades old. We assumed their technological progress would follow standard patterns." "It doesn't matter," Voss growled. "No planetary shield can withstand a concentrated assault from the entire fleet. Wheel." Alarms blared throughout the ship. "Energy spike," shouted the tactical officer. "Jump signature detected." Voss spun toward the view screen just as space seemed to fold in on itself. A sleek, dark vessel materialized directly in front of his flagship, a ship of clearly human design, but powered by Imperial jump technology. "Impossible," he whispered for the second time that day. "Jump successful," reported the Defiant's navigation officer. Directly in front of their flagship, as planned. Garcia didn't waste a second. Launch strike teams. Target their command systems and weapons arrays. Execute. The Defiant released a dozen smaller craft that streaked toward different Imperial vessels. Each carried a team of Earth's elite soldiers equipped with boarding technology reverse-engineered from Imperial designs. Enemy ships powering weapons, warned the tactical officer. Evasive pattern Delta, Garcia ordered calmly. Deploy countermeasures. The Defiant danced between enemy fire, moving with an agility that shocked the Imperial gunners. Meanwhile, Earth strike teams breached the hulls of their targets, fighting their way to critical systems. In the command center of the Imperial cruiser Dominance, Lieutenant Jones led his team through surprisingly light resistance. They never expected to be boarded, he told his squad as they reached the main engineering section. These ships aren't designed to repel internal threats. Following their carefully memorized plans, the team planted specialized devices on the ship's power core. Not bombs, but complex technological disruptors designed to temporarily disable Imperial systems without destroying the vessels. Charges set, his tech specialist reported. 2 minutes until activation. Jones nodded. Back to the shuttle. Mission accomplished. Admiral Voss watched in horror as ship after ship in his fleet went dark, their systems failing simultaneously. The human vessel continued its impossible maneuvers, avoiding all attempts to target it. We've lost contact with 12 ships, his communications officer reported, voice shaking. Internal systems failing across the fleet. Before Voss could respond, the human ship vanished in another fold of space, a jump back to Earth. This. Trell's voice was barely audible. This has never happened before. Voss stared at the view screen, at the peaceful blue world that had just delivered the first true defeat to an Imperial fleet in living memory. Send a priority signal to Imperial Command, he ordered quietly. We need reinforcements. Many reinforcements. The Imperial High Council chamber on Centris Prime fell silent as Admiral Voss finished his report. 12 council members sat around the massive obsidian table, their faces showing varying degrees of shock and disbelief. You mean to tell us, said Councillor Dren, his voice dripping with skepticism, that this primitive world not only resisted your fleet, but launched a successful counterattack? Voss stood stiffly, the shame of defeat evident in his posture despite his efforts to appear composed. The humans possess technology they should not have. Their planetary shield withstood our initial assault, and their ships demonstrate jump capability equal to our own. High Chancellor Malvis leaned forward, his ancient face creased with concern. In 8 centuries, no world has successfully resisted imperial incorporation. The costs of failure extend beyond this single planet. If word spreads, it already has, interrupted Councillor Aisha, the Empire's intelligence director. She activated a holographic display in the center of the table, showing reports from a dozen worlds. Resistance movements on 3 recently incorporated planets have already cited Earth's defiance in their communications. The Orion Sector Governor reports increased unrest. The room erupted in angry murmurs. Chancellor Malvis raised a hand for silence. The situation is clear, he said. Earth must be brought into the Empire, regardless of cost. Admiral Voss, a battle group from the Imperial Core Fleet will reinforce your position. You will break this resistance. Voss nodded, but Ambassador Trell, standing beside him, cleared his throat nervously. Chancellor, if I may, our intelligence suggests the humans are willing to negotiate. Perhaps terms could be. Negotiate. Councillor Dren spat the word. With primitives who dared attack Imperial vessels. Absurd. Chancellor Malvis studied Trell thoughtfully. What kind of terms? A neutral status. Trade agreements rather than subjugation. They claim no interest in expansion. They merely wish to remain independent. The council chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. Dangerous precedent, muttered one councillor. But perhaps necessary, Malvis replied. Admiral Voss, while we prepare the battle group, you will meet with these humans. Discover what they know, how they acquired our technology. We negotiate from strength, not weakness. Make that clear to them. Director Adams stood at the observation window of the orbital meeting station, watching the Imperial diplomatic vessel dock. Behind her, Commander Reed and Captain Garcia conferred quietly. "They're stalling," Reed said. "Buying time for reinforcements." Adams nodded. "Of course they are. And we're letting them, because we need time too." Garcia raised an eyebrow. "Phase 3. Already underway," Adams confirmed. "While they focus on Earth, our transmission buoys are reaching the outer systems. Every subjugated world will know that the Empire can be resisted." The door slid open, revealing Admiral Voss and Ambassador Trell. The Admiral's face was a careful mask of diplomatic courtesy, but his eyes betrayed his anger. "Director Adams," he began formally, "the Empire is impressed by Earth's unexpected capabilities." Adams allowed herself a small smile. "Not as impressed as we were by the crashed Imperial scout ship that landed in our ocean 60 years ago. Your technology is remarkable, Admiral. Even more remarkable is how easily we adapted it." Voss couldn't hide his shock. "A scout ship? Impossible. We've had no contact with." "It wasn't making contact," Reed interrupted. "Based on the records we recovered, it was assessing Earth for conquest. 6 decades ahead of your current schedule." Trell looked genuinely confused. "There is no record of such a mission." "Perhaps your empire is larger than you can properly manage," Adams suggested. "But that's not why we're here. You wanted to talk terms." Voss straightened. "The Empire is willing to discuss a special status for Earth in exchange for sharing your adaptations of our technology." "Not just for Earth," Adams replied. "For any world that wishes independence." "Absolutely not," Voss snapped. "The Empire will never." "Admiral," Adams cut him off. "While we've been talking, 50 automated transmission vessels jumped to different sectors of your empire. Each carries proof that you can be defeated, along with technical specifications for planetary shields." She let the words sink in. "You can fight a dozen rebellions across your empire, or you can accept a new reality." Voss's face paled. For the first time in his career, he found himself without a clear path to victory. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked quietly. Adams activated a holographic display showing a new galactic map, one where Earth and a handful of other worlds glowed green instead of Imperial red. "Let's discuss the future of the Free Worlds Alliance." 1 year after the standoff with Earth, the Imperial Palace on Centrus Prime had lost some of its former grandeur. Chancellor Malvis stood at the window of his private chamber, watching ships come and go from the once bustling spaceport. Many wore unfamiliar markings, vessels from the newly formed Free Worlds Alliance. "The final reports are in, Chancellor," said Councillor Aisha, entering with a data tablet. 17 more worlds have declared independence this month." Malvis sighed heavily. "And our military assessment? We could retake perhaps 3 or 4. The others have already implemented Earth's shield technology." She hesitated. "And there's something else. We're seeing a population shift. Imperial citizens are emigrating to Alliance territories." "Deserters," muttered Malvis. "Not just military personnel," Isha corrected. "Scientists, engineers, artists. They're calling it the Freedom Migration." Malvis turned from the window, his ancient face showing the weight of recent events. How did one planet, one primitive, backwater world, change the balance of power so quickly? "They had help," Isha said quietly. "From us." On Earth, the Global Defense Council had transformed. What began as a secret military organization now operated openly as humanity's diplomatic arm to the galaxy. The chamber buzzed with activity as representatives from 24 formerly Imperial worlds gathered for the Third Alliance Summit. Director Adams entered to respectful silence. At her side walked a tall, blue-skinned figure, Ambassador Trell, formerly of the Empire, now the first Imperial defector to officially represent his homeworld in the Alliance. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Trell," Adams announced. Trell stepped forward. "My world of Nebulon votes to join the Free Worlds Alliance as a full member. We reject imperial rule and embrace the principles of sovereign cooperation." Applause filled the chamber. Another world peacefully breaking from centuries of imperial control. In orbit above Earth, Captain Garcia walked the expanded bridge of the flagship Defiant. The vessel had been upgraded significantly, incorporating new technologies developed through collaboration with other Alliance worlds. "Jump coordinates confirmed, Captain," her navigation officer reported. "The Sirius delegation awaits our arrival." Garcia nodded. Just 18 months ago, humans had never traveled beyond their own moon. Now, Earth ships regularly jumped between stars, establishing trade routes and diplomatic connections across what had once been imperial space. "Take us out, Lieutenant," she ordered. "Standard jump protocols." The ship folded space around itself, traveling distances that once seemed impossible. Garcia felt a familiar pride as stars streaked past the viewports. Humanity had not only survived its first contact with a hostile galactic power, it had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. On a distant world at the edge of former imperial space, Commander Reed supervised the installation of a planetary shield generator. Local citizens, a species with 4 arms and iridescent skin, worked alongside human engineers, learning the technology that would guarantee their continued freedom. "Will the Empire really stay away?" asked the local governor, watching the shield emitters rise into position. Reed nodded. "They've learned that conquest costs more than cooperation. Earth didn't beat them with superior force. We beat them by showing others they could be beaten." The governor gestured to the stars. "And what happens next? Will the Alliance become the new Empire?" "No," Reed said firmly. "That's the difference. The Alliance doesn't demand obedience. It offers choice. Every world determines its own path." Back in her office at Earth Defense Headquarters, Director Adams reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Empire had stabilized its borders, accepting, for now, the new galactic reality. Trade between Alliance worlds flourished. Cultural exchanges brought new ideas and technologies to Earth. A message appeared on her screen. Admiral Voss requesting a private meeting to discuss matters of mutual concern. Adams smiled slightly. The proud Imperial officer had finally accepted that threats would no longer work. She looked out her window at the night sky, remembering when those stars had seemed unreachable. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge not by conquering, but by standing firm against those who would conquer them. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history. "Schedule the meeting," she told her assistant. "The future is always open to discussion." Outside, Earth's planetary shield shimmered faintly in the sunlight, not just a barrier against aggression, but a symbol of a new era among the stars.